Mazda 3 of the first generation, 2003-2009 years of release. Good day. If you're wondering is it worth buying a first generation Mazda 3 and what problems you may encounter during operation, then you're at the right place. So the body of the Mazda 3 is sturdy enough. It's relatively resistant to corrosion. You shouldn't be afraid of rust under the bottom of the car either. Most often this is nothing more than harmless surface corrosion. However, the majority of the cars on sale are already showing their age. Incidents: a metal strut located under the rear shelf often burst at the weld points. Rear arches rot on pre-styled Mazda 3 manufactured before 2006. Only after restyling, when the Japanese company began to use a new paint technology, this problem was solved. The arches can also rust because of the felted fenders that have fallen out. Water and reagents enter the cavity, after which the wing has no chance. Also, hatchbacks of the first years of production are not insured against bugs on the trunk lid. Another typical problem is the front bumper that has fallen out of the attachment points. Its plastic latches break easily even after a harmless collision with a snowdrift. Mazda 3 is not insured against damage to the stove motor. This usually happens to those owners who do not bother to replace the cabin filter in a timely manner. To replace the motor, you will have to disassemble half of the front panel, which will make the work quite expensive. The ventilation and heating system of the Mazda 3 can also fail because foam rubber seals are used on all its connections. Over the years, this material dubs and collapses, due to which the tightness of the system is broken. Considering the labor costs and the cost of work, only a few owners decide to change seals for new ones. When the mileage gets really high, there are even more serious problems. One of them rotates the fuse box located under the hood. To make matters worse, the Mazda 3 doesn't tolerate unskilled interference in its electronics. Trying to solve the problem, the would-be masters disable the PCM control unit, after which all the silent electrical equipment stops working. Electrical problems, after which many car systems will begin to live their own lives, can also arise after an unqualified alarm installation. Of the engines, in terms of the number of offers on the market, the base 1.6-liter engine is in the lead. Don't be afraid of it. Despite the modest power, it provides the Mazda 3 with good dynamics. The 1.6-liter engine is also good in terms of reliability. It can easily withstand 200,000 km without any investment. The guarantee of longevity is correct and timely service. Mazda engines do not tolerate low-quality engine oil and too long drain intervals. It's worth changing the oil every 7–10,000 km. Otherwise, after a run of 120,000 km, the motor will wake up an oil appetite. Not the biggest, but still an unpleasant motor problem. The steel oil pan is sweating with grease. Leaks usually occur due to age-related corrosion of the pellet itself. Another reason for leakage is a violation of the tightness of the joint between the pellet and the crankcase. The sealant, which was used at the joint instead of the gasket, over time begins to crumble cornea. The tension rollers and the drive belt of the attachments can withstand about 100,000 km. The resource of the double-row timing chain is much longer. It can withstand up to 250,000 km. If the chain starts to rattle, it's best to replace it immediately. The jump will end in failure, with a guaranteed purchase of a new contract engine. Fortunately, there are enough of them for disassembly. The list of Mazda 3's weak points doesn't end there. Burning out intake manifold gaskets is common. Following this, the NOx sensor fails. The oxygen sensor doesn't differ in vitality either, but the sticking of candles in the wells is entirely on the conscience of the owners, who are in no hurry to replace them. Often when you try to unscrew such a candle, it bursts. First 2-liter unit of the LF series serves all 300,000 km before overhaul. After 100,000 km, the valve clearances are adjusted in it. After 200,000, the timing chain changes. In a tired motor, the throttle valve very quickly becomes overgrown with carbon deposits, and all because the exhaust gas recirculation tube is located directly behind it. You will have to clean the throttle valve every 25–30,000 km. The Mazda 3 manual transmission is reliable, but only if the oil in it is changed every 75,000 km. Sometimes the synchronizers of the first and second gears fail, as well as the bearings of the input shaft. Differential bearings can occasionally hum. The 4-speed automatic serves as a faithful and truthful thing. The main thing is to change the transmission fluid in time and not to arrange traffic light races with abrupt starts, otherwise the clutch pack will not last long. As in the case of the engine, the Mazda automatic in case of failure is not sorted out but replaced with a new unit. With very high mileage, after 180 to 100,000 km, the drives can turn. The original part has a non-separable design and is expensive. Many trying to save money select collapsible analogs, but this doesn't make much sense. This option will cost less, but it will also last less. There are also frequent leaks of oil seals of internal drives. This usually happens on cars with an automatic transmission. The reason is an intermediate support with a suspended bearing. The latter begins to play with time, which is why the drive begins to deviate left and right while breaking the oil seal. Our roads were too tough for the Mazda 3 suspension. Shock absorbers can withstand 80–100,000 km on average. Most often they begin to leak due to the sharp impacts caused by falling into deep holes. When driving on bad roads, the anti-roll bar struts start knocking to a run of 50,000 km. After 80,000 km in the front suspension, you will have to change the levers. To the mark of 100,000 km, the steering rack begins to knock. If a competent specialist takes care of its bulkhead, the new rail will serve even more than the old one. You won't have to touch the steering rods and tips at all. If there was no strong blow, they will withstand 200–150,000 km. The hub unit is also very reliable, but it's important to know that on Mazda 3 manufactured before 2006, there is a unit from Ford in which the bearing changes along with the hub. On cars after the update you can do with extrusion. There are no complaints about the ABS sensors either, they're almost forever. What cannot be said about the wiring going to them? It can turn away over time. In the rear suspension the bearing changes with the hub. In addition, at the rear with a run of 100,000 km, you will need to replace everything except the subframe. Expensive, but this approach is justified if only because 100 allows you to forget about the rear suspension for the next 100,000 km. Finding a Mazda 3 in good technical condition is not easy. Cars of this brand are usually bought by those who want to move with a twinkle. It's difficult to recommend hatchbacks and sedans of the first years of production for purchase. They are quite inexpensive, but the resource of such cars is practically exhausted. In addition, over the years, the car has probably managed to change by 2 or 3 owners. One can only guess how well and in a timely manner they serviced their car. The 2007–2008 Mazda 3 seem like a better option. They are free from childhood illnesses and as a rule have a mileage that allows them to drive for some time without serious financial costs. If we compare the Mazda 3 with the SO-platform Ford Focus, then in terms of engines, the win is definitely on the side of the Japanese. Suspension is on the Ford side. The rest of the classmates look about the same. If you are the owner, then be sure to leave a comment about this car. Your review will definitely help others with the choice of a car.